Good afternoon. It's a breezy 66 degrees here on the hilltop, especially here in Austin, Texas. My name is Josh Hankin, and welcome to another installment of All Access Garage. Today, I'm welcomed with someone that's near and dear to my heart. He's been there since my high school days. Without further ado, it's Brutus VIII or Jackson. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
How's everything with you over there? How's the weather over there? That's typically where we start at, right?
Yeah, it's good. I think there's like a storm coming of some kind. It's just got very windy and cold. But it's good. Hanging out inside all day.
Right on. Yeah, I mean, um, last couple weeks or so, it's been typically cold. So it's usually when it's what 40 degrees, you see me outside with a thick jacket for some reason. That's where that's where the winter things come into play for me. That's where I put on some jeans and everything like that. I don't know if it's kind of the same thing with you, how your attire is when it's super cold, but that's typically mine. As soon as it goes anything below 50.
I just moved here too. So and like I was saying, I grew up in LA. So I yeah, I've learned all about long johns and all
Right
that
on.
stuff.
Yeah. Well, like I said, thanks for joining us today. Here at St. Edward's University, we do want to thank you for just stopping by and taking some time out of your day to come talk to us. So it means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, well, you ready to get this thing started, shall we? How did this band start for you? Where did Brutus VIII come from?
It was just something. I think when I was in high school, I started just kind of messing around with GarageBand and like just trying to figure out how to record some songs that I was writing and stuff. And yeah, I had like a handful of little like crappy demos. And yeah, I don't know why I just started calling them Brutus VIII. I just wanted a name to put them under. And then I would burn CDs and kind of give them to a couple friends. Uh, and that was kind of it. And then I like would kind of that was like the beginning, and then I would kind of secretly just keep doing that. And then but I kind of kept them all to myself, and then I would start to play drums and other instruments and other bands and stuff, and kind of became part of like a more of a scene, a music scene in LA. And then as that was happening, I realized like, oh, okay, there's kind of like I could have some kind of there's this kind of could be a space for me in this to do my own thing again and kind of release these songs. Um, yeah, that's kind of how I started doing it.
Right on, dude. That sounds like a kick-ass thing for sure. I mean, for people who don't know, Jackson, he's been participating or partaking rather on a lot of other bands, and every time I've seen him, in other bands, it's just amazing. And him as himself as a performer taking on his own role there, it was awesome. I think um, the first time I've heard of you was when I had listened to Japanese canon. That was the first time. Which, by the way, anyone who is interested in new music, I promise you, this is something you really, really have to listen to. I think it's something that is near and dear
Like,
to my heart, and I think that I'm pretty sure you'll probably end up listening to at least like a dozen times in a row just by listen to that. But the point I'm trying to make is, um,
thanks.
he knows what he's doing for sure, and you do. Like I said, I strongly know that you're going to kick off for sure on that end for so yeah, but I mean in particular for you though, right? Did you have anyone that inspired you possibly to get into the music scene, perhaps?
Um, no, I mean yes and no. Yeah, like I definitely, of course, had like music inspirations in those bands that I love. But when it came to like actually just doing it and being a part of the scene, quote unquote, uh, I was just so lucky in that like the LA scene at that time was very like to a degree pretty welcoming. I think then it hasn't always been before and after that, but it was like this weird pocket of time where it felt very accessible and easy to do it. So I was just kind of lucky in that like I was the right age, the right place, the right time, where I felt welcome to just do it. And I had grown up like playing little shows and stuff in like the smaller suburb that I'm from near LA. So it didn't feel that scary to me to just like jump in and do it, especially when there was already this like thing that already existed happening around, like, I don't know if you've, I'm sure you've heard of like the smell in LA and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was kind of like the scene. And like once you kind of like got in there, you could just play all the time, and then you meet like, you know, all the different people from all the different bands and so on.
So he's like, I guess, kind of going on that. It's like, would you say the Smell is the place to be at in LA for the music scene?
It certainly was then. I haven't, I'm sure it is, still is now too. I just haven't been in quite a while. But it's always great. I mean, it's just like this sort of like, everything they say about it, it's true and great. Like it's just this kind of crappy. It's not crappy. It's just like it's in sort of like a interesting part of downtown in an alley. Uh, you know, it's a little smelly. There's a reason it's called the Smell. Uh, it's just like very DIY, not crappy, just like very self-run. And there's this one guy who runs it, Jim Smith, that's been doing it forever. And God bless him, because he's there like every single night, working the door and stuff and making it still a thing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I've always, even here in Austin, much less in Texas, I know that it's a very big scene. I mean, it's a very a very big venue. I know that, or even over here, I've heard of it, and I'm assuming I did look at some videos in it because I was curious. And to your point, yeah, it's a very do-it-yourself type of venue where there's always it's a very interesting scene. I think it has like multiple rooms, give or take, inside there.
Yeah, there's sort of like a like there's kind of one performing room, but there's like sort of like an entry, like I, lobby might be a little generous of a term, but like there's a lobby, uh, sort of. And so there's really only one performance room, but I remember when I was going as a teenager, like sometimes bands would play in the front area as well. Um, yeah, if you ever get the chance to go, it's great.
Right on. Yeah, I mean that's on my bucket list for sure. Right? But as far as kind of going back to you now, right? You know, where did you get Brutus VIII from? Is there kind of a story behind that name?
Um, you know, not really. Uh, sorry to be so boring, but yeah, again, like I was just in high school and wanted a name, and I, I think I was in history class or something, probably learning about the Roman Empire, and I just thought Bruce was cool. Wanted a number. I liked that Brutus was like a betrayer and sort of like a villain, but you could kind of like, you know, he had a backstory. You could kind of relate to him a little bit. Um, yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, there's really not. I just thought it sounded cool as a teenager, and I still do. You know, like
Yeah.
most people I know in bands, especially bands that they started when they're teenagers, are like, oh God, what did I name my band? This stupid thing. And now I'm like stuck with it or something, but I feel fine about it. I'm like, yeah, okay, this works.
Look, it's a kick-ass name for sure. I actually, um, when I listened to it again when I first heard you, I was like, dude, that's kind of a fucking awesome name. I was like, there's not a lot of bands like that. And it's just it has kind of like a I don't know, a punch to it, if that makes sense. It sounds it's a very solid name, and I'm happy you chose that because it was like it's something that kind of sticks with you now. And I don't know, again, it was just uh, an amazing name, I guess, generally speaking, that you chose. So that's awesome. I'm really happy you stuck with that for sure. But as far as you though, going, outside of music, do you have any hobbies, perhaps? Attending sports events, maybe reading, maybe attending other concerts, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty boring. I do, yeah, I watch a lot of movies, read quite a bit. Uh, Kind of a homebody, I think. Um, yeah, there was a period briefly during the like first wave of the pandemic when I was playing tennis quite a bit. I liked that. I just started running again, which is good for my brain. Um, yeah, that's kind of it. I Most of my life is, I think, thinking about music stuff and just like, um, trying to make records and stuff that I like.
Right on. And then, do
With a
you
band.
perhaps do you perhaps collect vinyl too? I mean, I'm a huge vinyl person. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
I have like over 100 or so vinyls with me
Well,
at my place.
you might have me beat, but yes, I do. I had to move, so I put a lot of them in storage. But yeah, I do, especially when I have money. It all depends on where I'm at financially. But that usually is like, yeah, the go-to things that I'll buy if I have money.
No, of course, yeah, no. I think well, yesterday when I was interviewing another band, I gave a cool little trick, and I think you might want to try it out too. Usually, what I do, and I always it's an expensive little thing I do because
Yeah,
I'll end up wanting to go to the record store for about one or two vinyls and leave with a handful of more. So I usually go ahead and put my earphones on, and if I look, I know that you shouldn't be really doing this, but you should never judge a book by its cover, if you would. And well, I'm like,
I
that's
absolutely
kind of
should
cool.
judge by its cover.
No, yeah, yeah. And it's like I go there and I'm like, that album
Yeah,
cover looks awesome. And I just go on Spotify or any streaming music service and I just listen to it. And I'll be there at the record store for at least a good 2 to 3 hours, give or take, on it. Just jamming out to music. And
yeah,
it's like to your point, yeah, it gets kind of expensive for sure. Um,
yeah.
just
Those are the best finds. Are the sometimes, yeah, you judge the book by its cover, and then you kind of discover what it is. Sometimes, if it's in the cheapo section, I'll do that a lot, and like they're like $1 or $5 or something.
yeah.
I'll get a few, and not listen to them until I get home, and usually you find some cool weird
Oh
stuff.
yeah. Yeah. Another cool thing you can do, which I've actually done before, I think it might actually help you too. Usually, what I do is here at Waterloo. That again, that's our kind of our main record store here in Austin, Texas. We go ahead and I called them the other day, and I'm like, look, I have about $40 with me. Um, I'm gonna ask you if you can please get as many vinyls as you can that fits that budget, and then I'll pay you, and then you send it to me. And they did, and they gave me two vinyls by Lithics and this other one called Perfect Pussy. That was the other band's name.
Oh
Either
yeah, I've heard of that.
way,
Yeah,
they're really amazing, and I think that's something you may want to look into.
cool.
It's really interesting when you kind of let them choose for you, right?
Yeah,
So that's another fun little hack I found that I actually
yeah,
enjoy for sure.
that's so cool.
But yeah, kind of revolving back into to you whatnot. Um, if it wasn't for music, if music wasn't a thing for you, where do you perhaps see yourself at?
I don't know. I think probably still in the arts of some kind. Uh, I don't know. I think I've just been doing music for so long. One time, a friend who's not a musician said that musicians are like Olympians and that we only know how to talk about and do one thing because we've just been doing it forever, which I thought was really funny and true. Uh, but I think, uh, yeah, I don't know, something in the arts. And if not the arts, I would be upset and like working for my parents. Uh, doing my dad like puts turf on people's lawns like fake grass, so I'd probably be working for him. Which no shade in that. I probably will inevitably end up doing that at some point. But yeah,
I mean, I'm telling you, like, and I'll tell you again, and probably later on, but and again, maybe it's just I'm not trying to sound egotistical, but I have what I'd like to believe a good music taste, and a lot of the bands that I've listened to, including yours, have been amazing, and you guys are you guys are beginning to lift off even more and more and more. So I'm telling you this right now, and then mark my words right now. If you continue doing this, I promise you, you are going to like literally boom for sure. I know
no, I'm
that
gonna quit.
it.
I'm just kidding.
No, no, don't, dude. I'm
I'm
telling
joking.
you, it's literally like
I know, I'm joking. No, I'm kidding.
so,
I no, I'm kidding.
no, no, I know,
I'm
I
just
know, I know.
I'm.
It's just again,
Oh, thanks for saying that. That-
but yeah, I mean, it's a very like I said, throughout the musicians that I've interviewed, it's a very heavy process for sure. I believe, kind of creating the music and coming up with an ideas because I know there's some who I've talked to, I just they mentioned that, especially and we'll get into it in a bit, but more so like the pandemic kind of slowed everything down for everyone. Some for some people it gave them time to um, create music and develop more, but some of them haven't been privileged enough to have that opportunity to do so.
Mhm.
So I know that we're beginning to slowly get out of it, but you know I've always had they've always told me too. As long as you keep your head there, you'll always succeed. And I think that kind of relates back to me too, words. Um, there was a lot of people who doubted me, and I've been and done things that I wouldn't have thought I would ever do. And I'm pretty sure it's with
Oh, man.
in your situation too, where I know that the music that you create inspires a lot of other people. And believe it or not, literally, I'm not even joking. Your songs, again, I keeps bringing it up, but when I first listened to you, your music was just so calming, and and I'm not, and it's gonna sound silly, but because of they're hearing Japanese Candy, I went literally the next week of to go buy a Guitar Center to try to replicate some of that.
Oh, that's cool. Thanks.
So
That's
it's
amazing. Are you a
it's
musician? Besides, I
I'm
mean,
not
I
I'm
assume,
not
well,
man.
like,
If you hear me, your ears will probably be start crying like just stop, man, and everything.
oh, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, um, it's all it's I guess in a sense it's kind of all a mental game. I don't know if you can attest to that.
Yeah, I think so. I think, yeah, you just kind of have to trust that, it's still, I still like to do, I'm just going to do it as long as I like to do it. It's kind of the thing. Obviously, like, if it was like, and it is to a degree, my career, uh, that's sick and that's great because then I get to do what I love to do with my career. But what's really just important to me is just as long as I'm enjoying doing it. The minute I'm not enjoying doing it, I'm not going to do it anymore.
No, and
Which
yeah, and I think
I don't see happening. But I just mean like that's just all I care about with it.
of course, and I feel like and I think I had a conversation yesterday, and I think mental health comes up first all the time. You know, um,
Yeah.
you have to be in a good headspace to create this, and an artist that I think you know can not necessarily being called upon, but rather he took an interesting step. Was I don't know if you've heard of that the one of the lead singers for Black Country New Road. Um,
Right. Yeah. He just
he
left. Right.
Yeah, I said left, and he did it because we don't. And I think someone else mentioned yesterday, we don't need another. Unfortunately, like a Kurt Cobain, where he unfortunately took his life. We want people to
Right.
be in a good headspace and in a good area to continue what they love to do. And I'm glad that you kind of hopefully understand that because it's like we are all human. We all have emotions. We all have feelings, and it's important to keep that to ourselves. And of course,
Right.
if we need help, to ask for help. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
I'm
for
I mean I hate to kind of extend that, but um, I appreciate that you're continued wanting your heart's there and you continue wanting to do that.
sure.
So I think that's something
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
pretty
I
awesome for
love it.
sure.
Yeah. It's my favorite thing to do.
But as far as kind of talking about the pandemic now, kind of going to that, how has it affected you and your band? How have you tried to overcome that? If so,
Yeah, well, so the project is just kind of I just do it's all me on the records. I play everything, and then usually I'll either do a solo show or I'll have a backing band. So uh, yeah, it was a little rough just in that like not being able to play shows, sucks. And especially I think this project in particular is like very much a live show thing. The records are great and I'm proud of them, but the live show I think is really part of it. So it was kind of just like continuing on with this thing and kind of just recording and trying to grow as a producer and as a songwriter rather than as a performer. And so yeah, which is a little tough at times, but also I got through. I made some
that's
cool stuff and you know did some fun things.
of course, yeah, no, definitely. I think, kind of, looking back at your discography, you did go ahead and you did release an album, Beyond, in
Yes,
2021. So, was that possibly something that you worked on during the pandemic as well?
a bit. It's was started a bit before the the shit hit the fan, um, but I think we were kind of finishing it at the beginning of the pandemic, and yeah, because we we were kind of working on it. Me and Nick Noneman, who produced it and also plays guitar in the live band, we were kind of, you can like work on a session over Zoom. So we would be like zooming and looking at each other and like also screen sharing and working on it. And that's like how we finished it. So it just sort of bled into the pandemic time, um, and then came out, much later.
Well, yeah, man. I mean, you killed it on this one for sure. I think
Okay.
the songs that the 11 songs that you posted out were just amazing. I was even privileged enough to even get it on vinyl, like I mentioned earlier. So
Yeah, that's so
um,
cool.
it's a
That's
lot of
beautiful.
fun. I think just artists like yourself, it's just fun listening to, and especially because um, a lot of the times, again, your music is just still taking off right now, but a lot of it's just amazing because when I share it with people, they're like, "Who is this person?" And I'm like, I act like, "Oh, you don't know who they are?" And I was like, "Shame on you," and everything. But
Thank
it's
you so much.
they go ahead and a lot of the time the people enjoy it. I've had a handful of my friends actually add you to their playlist, but it's just like you know how to make music,
Oh,
and I'm
yeah,
glad that
thanks.
the pandemic
You
didn't slow you
spreading the
down at all.
gospel.
I'm happy the pandemic didn't slow you at all. I'm happy that you just tackled it head on and took, and it's something that I'm, again, as a consumer of your music, I'm proud of. So, but yeah,
Yeah,
so, just kind of looking back at your previous
that's
tours now,
so
right?
cool.
You are an exciting person to watch. Um, I've never had the privilege to see you yet on tour, but I have been on YouTube. And based on what I've seen, you are such an exciting person to watch on stage performing. You know how to
Yeah,
have fun. You know just to jam out with your music. And to your point where you were mentioning how it's more of a live performance type of thing, I can
yeah,
attest to that because when I saw it, it was just punch after punch after punch with you, and it's just amazing to see that. I guess what I'm trying to get to is you're enthusiastic about what you do. So, how has performing in live scenes kind of shaped you? How does it put everything into perspective when you are placed in those scenarios?
I think because I was like a supporting member of bands for so long, which I loved to do for a while, I just got to like learn a lot of and sort of like take little, whether I knew it or not, take little mental notes of what I wanted to do for my thing when the time came. So I was a drummer for most of it, so I was like kind of just in the back, still having a great time. But I just got to like be a part of so many bands and see so many other bands that I knew like, okay, well, when I do my thing, I'm going to take these elements from, or like this energy from this that I like, or maybe not take this or whatever, change this, Um, so I just got like a dope, like front row seat to, sorry, the dinging, I'm getting texts. Um, I just got like a master class in performance from doing it for so long. So when it came time to do it, I was just ready, knew what I wanted to do.
No, of course, yeah. I mean, again, watching, I think the one that you performed that I was seeing that kind of sticks with me was, again, it kind of goes back to when I first you were introduced to me. Decided to kind of explore a little bit more of who you were, and I think the one that kind of you were just popping off on was "Watch Me Dive" on a
Oh yeah,
Hackney Pursuit. That one, yeah, it was it was so much fun watching that. And then when you and again I mentioned it, it was Japanese candy. That one takes more of a slower pace to it, but it's such a beautiful thing,
yeah.
especially when you are singing and you have such a unique and beautiful voice when it comes to that.
Oh, thank
So
you.
um,
Yeah, I think the live show now is definitely more on the aggressive side, and I still have the softer songs, but I just like it. I kind of just like. I think some songs serve the listener better as recorded things, and some things are like more of an experience. And I think I always want, if you're gonna like pay money to come see me, or I kind of just feel this way in general. Like if you're gonna pay money to see a show, I want to feel like it was like an experience. Um, and
definitely.
and I think that with the more aggressive stuff, I'm able to like give a more impactful experience, whether you like it or not. It's still gonna kind of sit with you a little bit, you know?
No, yeah, and I wasn't there at the show, but again, just viewing it just impacted me too, right? So, um, yeah, I mean, to attest to that, yeah, I can totally understand why you think that, Glad. I think that's something that some bands can master. I believe, like yourself, you kind of already have that mentality of, you're coming to come see me, you're spending your money to do that, so I want to give you a show that will is more than what you anticipated for,
Yeah.
so I totally agree with you on that. I'm totally on that boat with you. So, just talking about your tours and everything, you have any memorable stories perhaps you would like to share with us? Anything funny, anything exciting, anything interesting you like?
Yeah, I can tell the quick version of this story. So when I think I was 16, I joined this band called Rex. Uh, that was a great band. And I was stoked because I like auditioned to be in it. Everybody in it was a little bit older. I think they were like probably 22, 23. So I was like the baby, which has rung true for every band I played in since. And basically, like we went on this tour. It was us and this other band called Wild Wing. Everybody in the story are now my very close friends. At the time, I had just met them. We played this one show in San Francisco, and it was kind of a thing where we were crashing on couches up along the way. And after we played the show, I was like, "Hey, who are we staying with?" And one of the guys in the band was like, "Oh, it's this guy. Like, I haven't really met him, but he's really nice." And I was like, "Okay." We meet him, and he was like this kind of like hippie dude, and he was like, "Yeah, you can totally, yeah, like stay at our place." And then he was like, "Have you guys met this guy named Dallas yet?" And we were like, "No, not yet." And he was like, "Oh, cool. Well, you guys got to meet him. Like, he's the coolest." And we were like, "Okay, cool. Can't wait to meet him." And then we were talking to him. We were like, "Yeah, actually, our show in Oakland tomorrow had just gotten canceled." So we were like, "Yeah, we're just gonna like kind of hang out tomorrow." And he was like, "Oh, well, you guys should just play at our house. We're having a house party." And we were like, "Oh, cool. What's the occasion for the party?" And he was like, "Well, we're screening our documentary that we made." And we were like, "Oh, amazing. What's the documentary about?" And he was like, "It's about Dallas." And then we go into the house. Everybody there is like, "Have you met Dallas yet?" We're like, "No." "Who's Dallas?" And everybody. Uh, and like, it seemed like a bit of a, not like a drug den in a dark way, but in a San Francisco way, like in a way, like, it's like there's probably just like a lot of weed and like maybe some psychedelics, very like hippie kind of way. So everybody's like kind of high, uh, and they were asking about Dallas and if we'd met him. We were like, no, no, no. Finally, Dallas walks in. Uh, I'm a short guy. He's shorter than I am. Uh, has like a bowl cut and these big glasses. Kind of looks like Andy Milonakis a little bit. And he's like, "Hey, I'm Dallas." So it turns out Dallas is a performance artist that they all love, and the documentary is about his performance art. Um, and so fast forward to the next night, we play this house party where they set up a screen for the premiere. So he rolls up like kind of like uh, Tony Stark or like Bruce Wayne with like two of the like most beautiful women I've ever seen on like either arm, and like walks in with them like they're his dates to the thing. Everybody's like, "Oh, Dallas," that's like praising him at his feet. They show the documentary. It gets a standing ovation. And like, it's not that it was a bad documentary, that his art was bad, but it just seemed good. Didn't seem like this messiah, this prophet. Everybody's freaking out, and we were kind of just looking. The people that we came with were looking at each other like, "What the fuck is going on?" And that was kind of it. I mean, like, we played. There was a crazy party that didn't end. We wanted to go to sleep. We couldn't because that was the house we were staying. But yeah, that was the very first tour I ever went on, and I was a teenager, and I'll never forget it. It was bizarre.
It sounded very interesting for sure. I mean, I know that just like, man. So like the house you went into, it was just when you mentioned it was a party all night. It was a party all night for you then, for at least for the house entirely, correct?
Yeah, it was a party for that for him for that guy.
And was there a time that ever just kind of slowed down a bit for them?
No, not really. That's kind of the
Wow.
thing that you I've learned from touring a bit is that usually like if someone is like you can crash on my couch, not always. Sometimes there's just really nice people that live a very normal life and you can just crash on the couch. They're always nice. But usually if they're like, yeah, it doesn't matter how many come over crash at our place, we just met you. That usually means it's kind of like a party house, which
Oh
sometimes is
man.
really fun, but also sometimes when you're on tour and you're tired, you don't want to party all night if you have like, a crazy drive the next day or something. So you
That's
kind of have to choose your battles, I guess, or choose where you're gonna.
that's nuts. I mean, I think that's praise to you, man. I mean, that's something I don't think I can do. Much less tour around. I feel like
Oh, it's the best. It's fun. It's
oh yeah,
brutal.
yeah. I think it's a lot of fun for sure. But it's just more of that. I think the effort that comes out of it, the the time and effort that's being put into it is just a lot for me in
Yeah.
particular. But I know it is enjoyable from what I've heard from other people, including yourself. You know, I think that it does have a good payoff, especially when I believe you have a good a good crowd with you. I think that's something that a lot of artists do appreciate. I don't know if you can attest to that.
Yeah,
Um,
no, totally. I think, yeah, it's just like, yeah, about having a good group. It's like, it can be tough, it's a little hard, a little tiresome, but as long as you're with your close friends, or even like, doesn't necessarily have to be your close friends, but just people you like. Um, because like inevitably you will get annoyed with each other if you're together for that long. So it's nice when you're with people where like, okay, they might be annoying me right now, but like, come on, I love this person. We'll bounce back.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's again. I think that's and now when you toured, is it more of like you still have the same things with everything, just kind of the same idea where um you know you're with your friends and everything. It's just kind of like a whole. You know, I mean, I think that's I guess what I'm asking is more so that Um, when I was going on documentaries on other bands, I know that they all kind of said what you said. You know, when you're with each other for a while, it just kind of gets annoying, but you love them a lot. So, is that something that's kind of constant with every group you're with, in a sense?
Um, yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think, yeah, you just kind of want to, yeah, just be around people that you love. Um, or at least that, yeah, you enjoy hanging out with. And I think, yeah, as I put together, like if as I put together my backing bands or have in the past, it's usually like the perfect combo of like, it's usually like the perfect combo of hang and musicianship, I guess.
Of course,
So
yeah,
like to be
yeah.
able to play well as um, just get along with really well.
Of course. And so, like, you know, still kind of. So, when you go on tours, obviously you're performing for your fans, you're performing for people who don't know you, and you know all this stuff. So, but given that now, you know, when I first started following you, you're relatively small, but now you're now continually going really even bigger. So that's something that I'm happy to see. But also, if you can, you know, your fan base is sizable now, really sizable. And can you tell me, you know, explain to me why your fans are just amazing? The people, your listeners, the people who appreciate you. You know, what makes them so unique compared to other bands? You know, other bands, I guess, listeners as well. They have a good taste, possibly a really good taste in music. I'm pretty sure they do.
Yeah, that's nice. I think so. Yeah. I think it seems like that the people that are into my thing are very into it. Like it seems like which is so cool. Like it seems like it's not a huge it's sizable and growing, but it's not huge, but I think people that get it really get it and like it. And which means that they probably like similar music that I like is what I think I'm trying to say. And that's cool to sort of be like, okay, like we get it. We're on the same page in this thing. We have a similar taste, clearly, if you like what I'm doing. And I think that's the coolest part. It's like to feel connected to people that way. And just emotionally too. It's
No,
great.
definitely. Yeah, and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, right? Kind of going back to what you're mentioning about how your music taste and whatnot. Um, here, I know right now there's a whole deal with Spotify. We're not going to get into that, but As far as like the playlist, it says artist playlists. Those are the playlists that you've created, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a few on my page there.
Yeah. So I've taken a listen to a couple of them,
Uh-huh.
and the music that you post there, I can probably agree with you when you mentioned that the people who listen to your music just love, you have the similar music taste. And when I'm going there, there's a bunch of songs that I'm going scrolling down even right now that I have on my liked playlist. And
Oh,
I think
cool.
that's kind of, you make a good point there that I've never thought about, right? So I can see why I can see why you say that, and I can appreciate that, so for sure. As
Yeah,
far as
I
you,
love. I'm. That's like something I definitely love. Or I guess as a music fan, like it was. When you can see on these Spotify playlists when when bands post stuff they like or in interviews when they talk about stuff you like, that's like my favorite way to discover things because like you're just going like directly to the source of like how did this person get there, uh, or like sound wise, like or tonally, what what inspires someone. So it's always fun for me as a fan to just know that.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I wish a lot more artists could do that as well. Just kind of get into their. I mean, I don't know if it's all weird or anything, but like kind of get into their mind as to what they like. So because again, I feel like when it occurs to me too, because the music that I listen to, for sometimes of course, some music kind of gets repetitive a bit. You just kind of want a new change for a bit. You want to see what's new,
Mhm.
and sometimes you don't know what to look up. And I think that's something, especially how like on some streaming services, when they have today's hits or alternative or garage rock or something like that. In that case, it's not really it isn't hit as hard as when you've listened to any other band. It's more. I guess I would like to know what bands like that I listen to perhaps kind of reel me in to other music, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
I
I
guess
think.
that's that. I guess that's where I kind of found you was when I was listening to similar bands, and your music came up, and I mean, I think that's a great way of exploring for sure,
Mhm.
and it leads to more great finds. Just kind of like in a record store feel. Well, you continue looking for more and more and more until you find something that is just like, holy crap, it's amazing. So
Yeah.
yeah, so kind of revolving back to your to you. How does a song come into existence for your band, and perhaps is there any themes you try to possibly follow?
Um, it's usually a little different every time. I'll write a lot and just sort of like scribble down words and stuff. A lot of times not with any melody or like thinking, not even thinking about it as a song, but just sort of like ideas and stuff of just things I'm interested in and thoughts I'm having. And then, I love uh, the synthesizer and electronic instruments. So I kind of spend like most days just sort of like making beats or rough song outlines or whatever. And whichever ones I kind of get most excited about, I'll then structure out and make into a complete song. And then like I'll find the words for it and kind of look through those notebooks and just feel like whatever whatever I'm trying to say or whatever feels right.
Right on, yeah, yeah, and I totally get that. And I guess kind of like as a guilty pleasure for my thing, but how did the existence of Japanese candy come about? Because that's something that I'm really again I can't explain how much I enjoy that song, but for how does that something like that come to play?
Is that beeping on your end or mine? Wait,
I
hang
think
on
it
one
might
second.
be yours.
I'll tell you, I promise. Oh yeah, someone's backing up. It's loud. That song I know exactly. Okay, so the sound of it at the time, there's this band in LA called Sad Girl, uh, and there's the lead singer's name is Misha. It's his project, and he lived down the street from me. And in those days, we were hanging out a lot, and he would sort of like it's always so funny to me. He like looks like a greaser sort of. His band is sort of like 50s influence, Uh, and he'd always like call me and be like, I'm out front and go out front. And he had this big white van with like shark teeth painted on the side going up. Uh, they're a great band, are a great band. And he'd be like, "Get in," and I'd get in, and we'd go to some like burger joint. So I was like in like 50s mode, you know. And he was kind of showing me a lot of cool old like doo-woppy stuff and things like that. And I think like we would talk a lot about like what's great about a lot of those songs is it's just like pure tragedy sort of, and they all feel like very nostalgic, um, and very just like just devastating, but beautiful. Yeah, so I think that's what I was really inspired by. And there's this other song that's not doo-woppy, but by Scott Walker, Soft Walker 3, or Scott 3 rather, called It's Raining Today. And it has this bass that is a little similar. It's kind of like a doom doom, boom boom thing. And yeah, I was just trying to kind of replicate that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing because again, um, you tell a good story there, and
Oh,
the
thanks.
story I think is just amazing because it kind of when you're singing, especially for a song like that that's supposed to be a little bit slow, if I may say it is,
Hmm.
um, your voice goes so perfect with the tone and the lyrics, and I think there's a lot of artists who don't have that ability to do that, in my opinion, of course, right?
Oh, thank you.
And so it's just when you're doing that, it's just like it's so soothing. And I think the one that just kind of got me excited was when you bring in the saxophone in there, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh shit! I was like literally flipping out and everything. I was like, this is literally like amazing. I think you should have been there the first time I heard of it. One of my good friends, Kyle, which he's listening, he goes ahead and I went to him. I'm like, dude, you have to listen to this. And he's like, what is it? And he put some headphones on and he started listening. And the same reaction I had was that one. So again, it's just more of
That's cool. That's my
you
friend
tell
Mike.
good stories. I'm sorry.
I said that's my friend Michael on the sax. He's amazing.
Oh well, Michael. If somehow Michael ends up hearing this
He's the
somehow,
class baby. He's
he
the best.
he, he did an amazing job. And again, I think that again, from everything you've made from here on out, it's just been great. And, you know, you have a lot of singles here. I see on your Spotify, a lot of good albums you have here, and it's just something that I appreciate. That you really do look into your music before you release that. I think that's something that I mean, of course, a lot of artists do, but I think like someone mentioned, you know, you have to be happy with what you release. I think I was interviewing someone last week and they mentioned how it was more that if they're not happy with what they feel, like in other words, people don't have to agree with what you like, with what you make. You know, it's something that makes you happy, and it's something that you're happy with.
But yeah, I think that's also like a unique benefit of not being with a major label or sort of like, or not even that, but just being totally autonomous in the project as of now. Not that I don't want any of that other stuff, but just while I can do whatever I want, I'm just gonna do. That's kind of the whole point of this thing for me is that I get to just do whatever I want, and as long as I'm like you're saying, it makes me feel good and happy, um, and like hopefully the people that are into it are along for the ride, and I'm like so grateful for that. But yeah, I just like want to keep growing it and while making sure I'm fulfilled while I'm doing it.
Of course, and I think the record label you're with is Danger Collective, right?
Yeah, they did the physicals of the of Beyond.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, either way,
But it's the same thing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Either way, I know that the artists there are also. I know that a lot of them too are very. You can tell they have control of their own music, just like you. And I'm happy that you are taking control of what you make and what you love.
Yeah.
Because I know that
Danger's
these
great with
bigger
that.
artists and everything, it's kind of like with the record labels. They kind of tell them what to do and how to do it. You know, I want this done at this time. It's like I think it goes away
Yeah.
where you again as the one who's creating this has to be appreciative of what you do before you release it. Because if you don't like it, people aren't gonna like it most likely. And
Yeah. But also with that being said, no shade to big label stuff.
of course not. No,
Because I know people too that are on these big labels. It just depends like what it's all specific to the artist because I've also heard, there's people on these big labels that get to do whatever they want. They just have like more funding to do bigger projects and things like that. So, I've also heard cases of like it's such a classic thing to be like boo on the big label, and usually that's how I am. But I've also heard some stuff where they've been pretty cool too.
So yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean,
So
like
yeah,
you,
the major
like you
label
mentioned.
signed me.
Yeah, yeah. It's not of course, big labels aren't a bad thing for sure. It's just more that I appreciate I guess maybe it's a stigma that I have too, which is not really a good idea to have, right? Because I've always thought this, especially with other bigger projects, and maybe it ruined it for me with like I know it's a bad example to bring up, but like with Kanye, no,
Yeah.
I think he just kind of soiled that idea of what a record label is and how it's performed, and I just think it's kind of a bad take that I got into. No, not that I got into, but just heard of. And his point is,
It's
um,
funny with the Kanye thing because I don't like, I think like on a person like him as a human right now, he's making some pretty whack decisions.
yeah,
Um, and honestly, even like I wasn't a huge fan of Donda, and I love Kanye. I love his previous records. And yeah, I mean, I mostly disagree with like what he's doing, but I do like his whole like. I think it's cool that he's like trying to just like dismantle everything and change everything. That's great. Some of in which the ways he's doing it, I disagree with, but like a lot of the times, what he's suggesting, I agree with. If
of
that
course,
makes sense.
yeah. But yeah. I mean, as of right now, though, for you, um, here's the hardest question I'm going to give you tonight.
Yeah,
If you can name three of your favorite songs that you've made yourself, whether it be projects that you've done in the past, or maybe perhaps if you'd like to share future projects that you're working with, if you can name three songs.
I think there's a song I made a while ago called Fraulein that I really like. Um, I think I just like what lyrically how it turned out. I like the poem. Um, there's this other single, a newer-ish single called "Too Hot for the Blankets" that I really like. Um, and yeah, because when we play it live, it goes really hard and feels good. And that's kind of the direction that the project is taking in general, is sort of like the dancier thing. What else? What else? Um, there's a song at the end, the last song of my last record called "Death." That I like a lot.
Right on. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. Again, I think maybe it's just for me. I noticed that with bands that I normally get into, the first album that when I do get into a band is typically my favorite. So, um, again, bringing it up again, I know I keep fanboying all the time, but um, I
Oh,
think
that's
just
okay. I'm
generally
glad you like it.
the whole Hackney Pursuit is all of it. I just literally I can like one song. Maybe again the Japanese candy a little bit better than the others, but the rest I cannot love any less or any more than the others. So that would be
Thank
a
you
definite
so
hard question for me on that end.
Yeah,
But
thanks a lot. It's
of course,
funny. I made that when I was very young. Not so young, but I was like I think I was 19,
yeah,
20. So yeah, it's funny that it's so cool to hear that I made it that long ago, sort of in a vacuum. So it's always cool to hear that it has like a life.
of course, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, um, I think when and anyone who makes any bangers for sure is gonna that song's gonna live on forever. So I know for a fact, and especially because like again the music videos that you make are very interesting too. That you go ahead and I think that is just so much fun just to watch because not only is the music just music, but it's also an art form, especially for anyone who's ever listened to or seen any of your projects, they know that you do have Jacob from Surfers coming in as, and if you can explain just a bit more, um, what is because I see like you also posting on your Instagram how you're also producing more music videos, correct? With um, or I mean, I'm not sure what it is, but you're having a lot more.
Oh, I think maybe what you're talking about. I just did. I produced musically. I produced a few songs on Jacob's new record that's coming out.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Oh, but that's okay. But to be fair, I also, yeah, we did like a short film over COVID
Yeah.
that stars Jacob, that my friend Theo directed. That was kind of like my concept, starring Jacob. That I sort of co-wrote with Theo. Theo wrote most of it, directed it, and then I scored it and did all the music for it. So I'm kind of always trying to dip in to the film world a little bit, even though it's sort of not my world. I just love it. So yeah,
So
with
yeah,
music videos as well. Like I just want to do interesting stuff.
and is there a meaning behind those characters, perhaps, when doing that? Because I know that again, they're kind of faceless, if you would, the characters
Yeah.
that are produced with you.
There's kind of some meaning for me, but I don't know. You figure whatever meaning for you.
Gotcha, gotcha.
They're
Well,
just for me.
as of right now, for you,
Yeah.
is there anything you're listening to now, perhaps, that you'd like to recommend to anyone listening out there? Any songs, albums that you like currently that's on repeat, perhaps?
Let me pull up Spotify. You know what I just discovered last night? I have a few, but one I just discovered last night is a song called "You'll Never Know" by Dick Hames. It's like an oldies kind of crooner thing that I love. Um,
Let me check it out, actually, too.
Another one, I would say there's like four new Gap Girls songs, which Jacob's thing that just got released, and those are the
Yeah,
ones that I produced, as well as some of the others that are about to come out.
which, by the way, it was amazing. When I
Oh,
heard them, I
thank
was
you.
like, "Holy crap, this is amazing!" And when I heard you
Jacob.
produced them too, I was like, "Oh my god!" It just made me even more happy because it's like it kind of goes back to you. You're becoming such a powerhouse now
Oh,
that it is just when I listened to your music, I was just so happy, especially when I found out that was happening. I was like, and I guess the friendship that you have with them is just a strong one. So to know that you're with them and still hanging on tight and just having fun with them, it brings so much warmth to my heart on that end.
yeah, I love him. I haven't. It's unfortunately because I moved, and he's still in LA. I'm here. We don't get to see each other as much, which sucks. But we were just texting yesterday when the stuff came out. Yeah, I love him.
But yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, wait. So
So
wait, other music though. Um, Honestly, my biggest wreck ever, because it's recently changed my life, is there's this Frank Sinatra record, and it's from the '70s when he's like a little bit older. It's called Watertown, and it's the fucking best record. Um, it's just like so tragic, uh, and beautiful. And yeah, I'm
yeah,
obsessed with
yeah,
that whole
yeah.
record. Start to finish, that record is perfect.
And I guess as a personal question, is there any rock bands or any like kind of like post punk bands you kind of are into in a sense?
Yeah, I think most of the post punk stuff I like is like the original post punky thing, like from
Gotcha.
the '70s. I do like a lot of those new post punk bands are great. A big one, okay, a new one that I love is Annika, Anika.
Yeah.
Love Annika. I guess you could say her new thing is post punky. Uh, oh, Special Interest is a great one that I love. And then um, of the like, you know, original post punk, I'm a huge Bauhaus fan. Bauhaus, I have a
Oh
Bauhaus
yeah,
tattoo.
yeah,
They're
yeah. I
my
know what you
favorite
mean for
band.
sure.
I've loved them since I was like 12. They're my favorite band ever.
Right on, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that's amazing. How um, typically, I think for some people, I know that when I started doing this, I figured that artists were just kind of like um, they only kind of listened to what their genre was of music for some reason. I guess that was a stigma what I had. But when I started interviewing more artists and everything, you realize that they just don't listen to that what they produce. They more listen to like um, other stuff. Like there's one band that was like heavy metal, and they're like, oh, and the guy was like, no, I listen to country music, man. I kind of listen to that. I'm like, oh,
Right.
really?
Yeah.
Everything.
Because I think you get bored. Yeah, you just get a little bored, if you're just living in one world all the time as a music lover. Like, why would I just want to listen to everything that sounds like my band all the time? Even though I feel
Yeah,
like a lot of those bands I just cited kind of sound like my band, but but yeah, like yeah, you want to like live in other places sometimes.
And do you ever find yourself listening to your music at all at times?
I'll do it. Yeah, sometimes I'll do it. I have a thing about this because there's kind of like a stigma attached to it. Like you must be an egomaniac if you listen to your own music, kind of thing. And yeah, a little bit I am an egomaniac, but also it's like I made it for me. I made it based on things that I really like. So
Of course, yeah, yeah.
like I want to enjoy it. And so what I usually before it's out, if I'm really excited about it, I'll sort of listen to it and sort of pick it apart too, because I'm can be a perfectionist. But um, yeah,
Of
if I
course,
made it
no,
for me, and I enjoy it, I'll listen to it.
yeah. And it kind of goes back to the conversation we had earlier, where it's like if you're not happy with your music, because the music you make is for yourself, realistically. You know,
Hmm.
it's something that you created that if you're not happy with, your chances are people aren't going to be happy with either.
Yeah,
And it makes sense. And I can understand why there's a stigma with like, oh, you must be egotistical if you listen to yourself. But it's like, no, it's something that again you've made for yourself that you perfected. And I know that there's other people who are like, I like some person was like, yeah, I released the song, but I just kind of don't like it. You
yeah,
know, I wish I could have had more time with it. And
yeah,
maybe you can attest to that. But the idea is that again, it's your creation, your idea. Of course, you're going to want to listen to it, right? I mean, I think it's something that it holds dear and near to your heart for sure.
yeah, absolutely.
So, as far as you know, again, we told you went ahead and released Beyond last year in 2021. But do you have any future projects that you are currently working on right now, perhaps? And if so,
Yeah,
are you willing to share? Maybe.
yeah. I got a new record that I'm working on right now. That's pretty close to being done. Who knows when it'll come out though? Because then I gotta figure out how I'm putting it out and all that stuff. But yeah, working on a new record. There's a new single that's gonna come out, unrelated to the record, just a standalone single actually that'll come out sometime in March, I think. It's pretty dumb, this song, but I like it. And yeah,
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure here in the All Access Garage or here in the little studio here we have a top radio. I'm pretty sure it'll be blasting hours on end. I promise that thing's probably
can
gonna
you
be on
guys
repeat, man.
play?
That.
Is it is it just internet radio? Can you play stuff with explicit lyrics? Because there's a lot of explicit lyrics in it.
Oh no, we can. Yeah, yeah. Again, this is more of like again, it's the idea of this show, especially the here, is that we try not to censor anything at all. I think that's something that
Is it just an
we
online thing? Because I know like you can't play stuff. Are you? Is this a radio show?
yeah it is it is.
Okay.
So um, typically usually we'll have this also playing on campus as well too. Around obviously there's some people who have wanted like we have a couple coffee shops here on
Uh-huh.
campus. So I know sometimes, of course, not all the time. There's some people um, who don't who will make their own playlists, but for the most part, we have a lot of people who do support what we do here.
Oh, cool.
It is broadcasted around Austin if people choose to listen into for sure. So,
Oh,
but
amazing.
yeah, again, the idea is we will be playing hopefully some music if we are allowed to do that. So yeah,
Oh,
I
great.
mean, by all
Thanks.
means, I think that'd be totally awesome to have you
Yeah.
on there. But as far as anything else, kind of looking now what you've done, what you've created, this amazing Brutus VIII, right? If you
Hmm.
can look back at your younger self, what kind of words would you give to yourself?
Um, I think I'll just say to keep going. You can always, be more confident and like just don't give a fuck. Just kind of like, which I don't think I did, but even more. I mean, of course I did. I was, everybody does, but even more so, like, who cares? Just do what you want to do and double down on things, that you like.
Right on, dude. Yeah. Um. Well, Jackson, thank you so much for stopping by. It
Yeah,
means
thanks
a
for
lot
having me.
that you come in here and talking to people to us. It's yeah. Again, there's not a lot of people who of course, no shade. Of course, I know everyone's they have a basic schedule, but um, you did you took the time out of your day to come by, chat with us. Again, here in Austin, it is a huge music scene we have here. And there's a lot of inspiring artists, especially here on campus, that do take advice near and dear to their heart, especially when bands like yourself, started when they were so young and now become something, as big as you are now. And it's just something that a lot of people appreciate when you can take the time out of your day to just come in and just chat away with us. So once again,
Oh,
thank you
thanks
so
for
much.
having me.
If you guys are interested in going ahead and checking out Jackson's music, you can go check him out on Spot. Oh, you have him on all streaming services, correct?
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Alrighty then. You can follow him on Instagram. Do you have any closing thoughts or statements? Any one thing you want to plug in, perhaps? Any shout outs, perhaps?
No, I don't think so. If you're in Brooklyn, I'm playing in March 2nd. But otherwise, yeah, hopefully I'll come play in Austin soon.
Right on, man. Well, I appreciate you just stopping by, and until then, I will see you then.
All right, it was great to meet you, man.
Thank you.